These destructive mussels blanket the floor of big and small lakes alike. They have invaded 20 states, lurking in hundreds of inland lakes and 6 major rivers.
Cane toads are capable of killing anything that eats them, in water as well as on land.
Countries like Japan are known for their biodiversity and rich wildlife, but they can sometimes face problems due to creatures like venomous snakes. But things can get even crazier when foreign creatures like snake killers are brought in to control the snakes. Instead, they become a new threat by becoming invasive.
They take them to a lab where they implant tracking devices inside each snake, so they can study their movements. The data is then used for various methods of eradication, such as placement of traps and poison.
In this video, I'll take you to several places around the world where invasive species have taken over. Let's get started. Number 1, mongoose infestation in Japan. This is Amami Oshima, one of the largest islands in Japan and the largest in the Amami archipelago. It's one of the most biodiverse places in the world, and thanks to that, it's been packed with life for many centuries. It's situated between Kyushu and Okinawa, and alongside animals and numerous unique species of creatures, it has a population of around 73,000 people. One of the most notable facts about this island is the presence of species like the Amami rabbit and Amami jay. Even though it sounds like heaven on earth, there's one thing about this island that makes it a disastrous place. To understand it, I will take you several years back, somewhere around 1979.
Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week.
When small Indian mongoose were introduced to Amami Oshima, the main purpose of bringing them was to control the venomous habu snakes, which were causing quite a bit of trouble back then, including casualty. These mongooses are renowned snake killers, and the Japanese thought no better option than bringing these vicious killers to the land of the rising sun. But things didn't go as planned, because animals are animals, and they don't have brains like humans. So instead of only targeting the habu snakes, the mongooses started killing other creatures at a significant rate as well.
The farming sector was hit too. Mongooses, without bothering too much, preyed on farm birds and consumed fruits from the fields, and in their free time spread diseases to those they didn't eat.
This introduction had detrimental effects on the island's native wildlife, causing the deaths of many Amami rabbits and various bird species. This ongoing slaughter became alarming and demanded the urgent need for control measures to protect Amami Oshima's unique ecosystem. To counter the mongoose, Japan made efforts to eradicate them forever from trapping them to using dogs. They did everything to get rid of these aggressive killers. Thankfully, the mongoose population, which reached 10,000 by 2000, was finally eradicated in 2024 as Japan openly celebrated its victory against these invaders. Number 2, cane toads in Australia. If you think mongooses are worse, hold on a second before you make conclusions, because toads are way worse than you can imagine. In Australia, the cane toad species is a prominent example of how artificially introducing a creature can lead to severe consequences. These toads are mainly native to South and Central America. Before making their way to Australia, they were first introduced to Puerto Rico in 1920 to defend against sugarcane pests. It turned out to be quite effective and helpful for the farmers. The Australian agricultural authorities, who were facing the same pest problems in crops, decided to import 102 cane toads from Hawaii.
Single action, the Australian ecosystem was never the same. 100 toads quickly became 1,000, and then 10,000, and then 10 million, and then 100 million. They have rapidly spread over much of the continent.
Once the cane toads arrived in Queensland, the authorities bred them in captivity until they were finally released in various regions in 1937, with a whopping population of 62,000 toadlets. Unlike Puerto Rico, the plan turned into a disaster because toads kept breeding and multiplied into hundreds and thousands, spreading all across Australia. In only a few years, these toads colonized nearly the entire east coast of Queensland, and their expansion just kept increasing like an unstoppable force. To this day, their numbers just keep on multiplying.
In 1960s, cane toads expanded their range by about 10 kilometers per year. But today, cane toads are moving west at a rate of 50 kilometers a year.
The rapid population growth of the cane toad in Australia has led to severe ecological consequences, mainly because the toxin these creatures produce isn't very adaptable for the native creatures, causing significant decline. Species such as the northern quoll have suffered the most thanks to the introduction of cane toad. Even though efforts are being made to eliminate the cane toads, there's still a long way to go until they're brought under control. Number 3, brown tree snakes in Guam. The brown tree snake is another invasive species in Guam Guam that caused severe ecological damage in the region. According to researchers, the rapid spread of these creatures occurred accidentally, as they were unknowingly introduced during World War II. These snakes are mainly native to eastern and northern coastal Australia and numerous other regions worldwide. Sometime between 1945 and 1952, a few of these snakes snuck into military cargo, or may have crawled into the landing gear of aircraft returning from the war. Once they landed in Guam, the snakes snuck out, and the rest is history. Since then, the brown tree snakes have heavily populated the region and adapted to their new environment. Moreover, the island also provided a rich food supply for these snakes as they preyed on birds, lizards, and small mammals native to Guam. Their rapid predation of other animals caused a significant decline of numerous species, disrupting the ecosystem. These snakes are also responsible for heavy power outages in Guam, as they can crawl over the electrical lines and disrupt them, which affects not only the locals, but also the military operations on the island. To prevent further growth, specially trained dogs have been deployed in the region to continually prey on these snakes.
They take them to a lab where they implant tracking devices inside each snake so they can study their movements. The data is then used for various methods of eradication, such as placement of traps and poison.
Additionally, every cargo that comes to the island or departs is heavily checked, so these snakes can't climb inside. But there's no denying that Guam has officially become a headquarters for these vicious predators. Number 4. Zebra mussels in the Great Lakes. The zebra mussel is one of the many creatures that thrive in the Great Lakes. Unlike other animals, it was introduced naturally in the late 1980s and has significantly impacted the ecosystem since then. These freshwater mussels are native to the lakes of southern Russia and Ukraine. Surprisingly, they were also discovered at Lake St. Clair in North America in 1988. This lake in particular is connected to the Great Lakes system, and that's how a great population of this mussel spread in the waters. It's believed the introduction of zebra mussels mainly occurred due to the ballast water discharged from ships into the water. This leads to numerous organisms entering the lake, among which these mussels are also present. Once the introduction happened, the mussels spread like wildfire, reproducing rapidly and colonizing the Great Lake.
Scientist at NOAA who studies life on the bottom has estimated that there are over 4 quadrillion mussels on the bottom of the lake.
The estimated population of zebra mussels in the Great Lakes has reached as high as 750 trillion individuals, leading to severe ecological consequences. Their ability to attach to hard surfaces dominates the resources for numerous other species living alongside them. Moreover, it causes millions of dollars of damage to boats and infrastructure, showcasing their destructive nature. This has caused a massive decline in phytoplankton population, which ultimately leads to poor water quality. If it is not controlled sooner, it will become more than just a Great Lake issue. Number 5. Kudzu in the United States. Just like animals, plants can become very dangerous and invasive to the environment, like the kudzu plant, which has had devastating effects in the United States. These plants are originally from Asian countries like Japan and China, where they were introduced to the United States in 1876 because they had an impressive ability to control erosion. In addition, they were also excellent high-protein cattle fodder, which was just more of a reason to bring them to your country. Thanks to its unlimited benefits, the government officially funded this program by planting 85 million seedlings, which is absolutely crazy. Thanks to this massive funding, the plant also paid the country back with a devastating result. Kudzu started growing rapidly and covered everything to 100%, including trees, buildings, electrical lines, and many other things. The plant blocks the sunlight for other plants because kudzu needs the support of other species to survive. It's basically a parasite. After dominating the landscapes, this notorious plant gained its reputation as the vine that ate the South. Today, kudzu is estimated to cover approximately 3 million hectares in numerous states in the US and cause losses of approximately $100 million to $500 million annually.
They outcompete native plants for resources, spread diseases, and are the leading cause of animal extinction and population decline.
Maybe the US has learned their lessons, but isn't it too late now? Number 6. European starlings in North America. North America is known for its invasive species, including the European starlings, which have grown in numbers much more rapidly than any creature worldwide. Thanks to their never-ending reproduction, they've caused significant damage to North America's ecology and economy.
The European starling is a fascinating bird with a glossy black base color, iridescent green and purple sheen, and a bright yellow bill.
Now, the question is how it all came to such a devastating situation. Well, it all began in the late 19th century when Eugene Schieffelin first introduced the European starlings to the region. He released approximately 100 individuals of this species of bird in hopes of introducing all birds mentioned in William Shakespeare's works to the United States. Initially, it was all fun and games, but things got serious. Additional birds were released in 1891, leading to a permanent population. The species quickly started to colonize and spread throughout the north and west of the United States. And by the 20th century, it had reached Mississippi. One of the main problems regarding the starlings is their aggressive natures towards other native birds, including bluebirds and tree swallows. Aside from that, they heavily feed on crops, which can cause a massive loss to the agricultural society, approximately $800 million every year. That's why you should never mess with the natural habitats of birds and other creatures. Number 7. Burmese pythons in Florida. The Everglades in Florida are known for many things, including beautiful landscapes and serene waterways. But what they are really known for is something very deadly, or should we say Burmese python. Yes, these pythons are invasive species here, which affects the ecosystem and poses a significant threat to the region's native wildlife. Burmese pythons are native to Southeast Asia, but in 1970, they were introduced to Florida through an exotic pet trade. Many individuals initially took them as pets, but soon they realized that it wasn't easy to take care of these dangerous crawling beasts, which could reach lengths of up to 12 feet. Due to negligence, these pythons started to reproduce rapidly. And by the mid-1990s, biologists discovered a massive population of Burmese pythons in Everglades National Park. A few snakes that were brought here turned into tens of thousands in only a few years after arriving. Now, nothing is safe from their jaws. From birds to small crocodilians, they'll prey on anything they can find. Number 8. Rabbits in Australia. Australia has had a massive rabbit problem since the late 19th century when European rabbits were introduced to the region. Today, Australia has become a rabbit kingdom, which has become quite a headache for environmental management. These rabbits were first brought here in 1859 by Thomas Austin, who was a wealthy settler in Victoria. It's reported that Austin only released 13 rabbits at his residence to hunt them down, but his personal activities led to significant reproduction that caused widespread ecological disruption.
They're the number one pest species in the country for a good reason. They pose a big risk to agriculture, to nature reserves, to urban amenity. They're real ecosystem changes.
Within 50 years at max, these rabbits multiplied into approximately 200 million individuals who colonized the Australian land. Moreover, their numbers increased mainly because there weren't many predators around, which provided them with all the right conditions to thrive like the native creatures. Unfortunately, with such massive numbers, they also needed to fill their soft tummies, and for that, they consumed vast amounts of vegetation. This led to the decline of various native plant and animal species, soil erosion, and numerous other problems. But farmers have taken matters into their own hands to get rid of these rabbits one way or another. And thanks to numerous methods, many regions now have a 90% decline in their population. I guess that's a win. Number 9. Nutria in the USA. The nutria, also known as Myocastor coipus, or just koipu, is a fairly large semi-aquatic rodent mainly native to South America. But back in 1899, it was introduced to the United States for fur farming. For the next couple of decades, the nutria fur farming industry remained quite successful, but unfortunately the market suddenly collapsed in the 1940s. This sudden calamity led to a widespread release of these rodents into the wild, which, of course, wasn't a good idea.
Since 2020, Fish and Wildlife's full-scale operations have caused a downward trend of nutria, but the historic wet winter and flooding transported nutria downstream into the delta.
As of today, these creatures have become quite invasive, with their population spreading to at least 40 states of the U.S. Due to this rapid growth, irreversible ecological damage resulted, and many native animals lost their habitats. In addition, nutria can consume up to 25% of their actual body weight, meaning they're a massive threat to agricultural society. No good had come from these rodents except for fur when it was still valuable. Number 10. Asian carp in the Mississippi River. In the 1970s, in hopes of aquaculture and algae control, the United States decided to introduce Asian carp, which mainly included the silver carp and bighead carp. However, during severe flooding in the 1990s, these fish somehow made their way into the Mississippi River system, and that's where they started to rapidly increase their population, turning invasive. Today, these fish have grown in number, making them quite threatening to native fish population because there isn't much food left for all of them to eat. The carp have severely disrupted the river's ecology, leaving the government with no choice but to start eradicating them. Over the years, people have found numerous ways to catch Asian carp, but the one that stands out the most is electrofishing, in which the fish are caught by electrically stunning them. It's quite fascinating to watch hundreds of fish jumping out of the water at the same time when electrocuted. Number 11. Mongoose in Hawaii. Just like in Japan, the mongooses are quite a famous and hated creature in Hawaii. Although they are native to Africa and Asia, they have built up quite a population in other parts of the world. This all happened in 1872 when sugarcane farmers suffered from a severe rat problem. For that, they introduced, or should we say hired, 72 mongooses from Jamaica to hunt down the rats. But it turns out it was all part of the mongoose plan, because once they stepped foot on the island, they hardly waged war against the rats and instead started preying for other native wildlife. This led to a massive decline in bird species and turtles because the mongooses preyed on their eggs. Number 12. Fire ants in the USA. Fire ants, specifically red imported fire ant, are among the most invasive creatures in the United States. These ants first arrived accidentally in the US back in the late 1930s. It's believed they came there probably via transport vehicles and quickly started to increase their population throughout the southern states. They're among the most annoying and painful creatures.
Only score a 1.2 on the Schmidt Pain Index, but they tend to sting multiple times.
And a bite from one can really hurt. You can feel a burning sensation that can easily last 5 to 10 minutes. In extreme cases, these ants are even capable of killing a human, indicating only one thing: never mess with these little guys. Overall, these pests are very dangerous for humans and other creatures in the region, leading to massive disruptions to the ecosystem. And even after so many efforts, these ants continue to thrive and expand their territory. Number 13. Common buckthorn in North America. Common buckthorn, a native to Europe and Asia, became invasive in North America when introduced in the 1880s as an ornamental plant. Since then, the plant has never stopped growing and has spread to many parts of the world, including the US and Canada. These plants are known to grow rapidly, reach over 25 feet in length, and are packed with leaves, making them an invasive species. Their shade causes other plants not to thrive as much as they are supposed to, and it even covers areas like roadsides and forests, creating a massive decline in biodiversity. Number 14. Purple loosestrife in North America. Purple loosestrife, also known as Lythrum salicaria, is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful but invasive wetland plants that came to North America in the 1800s.
Purple loosestrife is said to disrupt the balance of wetland ecosystems and threaten the diversity of flora and fauna.
It's believed the plant most likely made its way through contaminated soil. The loosestrife normally thrives in wet areas, grows up to 7 feet tall, and surprisingly produces millions of seeds each season. Due to its massive increase in population and aggressive nature, it outcompetes the other plant species. Moreover, it can also clog the waterways, which is not only a problem for humans, but is also extremely dangerous for the wildlife to thrive in nature. Number 15. Japanese knotweed in Europe and North America. Japanese knotweed is yet another highly dangerous invasive plant that has caused disastrous results across Europe and North America. It was first introduced during the 19th century as an ornamental plant, but soon it quickly outgrew the gardens and moved to the wetland, where it started massively increasing its population. These rapidly spread through extensive distances, which made it extremely tough to control. It outcompeted other native plants, such as flora, and even caused significant damage to the infrastructure by invading foundations and drainage systems. The plant has shown such remarkable havoc in the UK that people are encouraged not to grow it in their home and lawn. Number 16. Tamarisk in the western USA. Tamarisk, also known as salt cedar, is another plant that became invasive due to its unstoppable growth, which took over a vast area of the western US. The plant was first introduced to the region back in the 1800s. The main purpose of bringing it was to prevent erosion, but as of today, it covers over 3.3 million acres. Well, that's more damage than benefit. Tamarisk forms a very dense shade over other plants, preventing sunlight from reaching them and severely disrupting photosynthesis. Moreover, the extensive root system poses a real issue as it can store up to 200 gallons of water per day, which is nowhere healthy for other native species as they need to stay hydrated as well. Number 17. Asian tiger mosquitoes in the USA. While hitchhiking the used tires in 1985, the Asian tiger mosquitoes made their way to the US. Once these uninvited guests arrived at their destination, they treated the new region as their home and started to become invasive daily.
The virus, which causes crippling birth defects, was known to be carried by a mosquito that is mostly limited to the south.
These mosquitoes are recognizable through their distinctive black and white stripes. Moreover, they're extremely aggressive and carry dangerous diseases, including dengue, chikungunya, and West Nile virus, which threatens human life. These mosquitoes thrive in urban areas, especially with small water sources for breeding. Even after all the efforts to eradicate these invaders, the Asian tiger mosquitoes continue to thrive in nature. Number 18. Black rats on island. Ratus, better known as black rats, is one of the most invasive creatures that have somehow found their way to tropical island. According to researchers, these rat populations result from human explorations that were carried out many years ago. These rats boarded the ships, and once they reached these islands, they started to colonize them, creating significant ecological changes. Black rats impact native wildlife through predation, which leads to declines in bird populations. They're a severe concern, but it's hard to imagine a permanent solution for these annoying creatures. Number 19. Sika deer in New Zealand. The quest for hunting new creatures has led to some irreversible mistakes, and the Sika deers in New Zealand are a living example. These deers were introduced to the region in the 1860s for hunting purposes, but the species soon became invasive due to the absence of natural predator. Due to overpopulation, they have become a real threat to biodiversity, as they can damage vegetation and lead to habitat loss for many native species. As their numbers increase, they expand into new areas, causing further ecological damage. Number 20. Giant African snails in Florida. The giant African land snail is yet another invasive species that has caused significant concern all across Florida. They were first introduced in the 1960s, and since then, they have rapidly increased their population, as they can lay up to 1,200 eggs every single year. These snails are known to grow over 8 inches long and can consume more than 500 types of plants, significantly disrupting the vegetation and crops. Aside from that, the most concerning fact is that they carry a number of diseases and parasites, including the rat lungworm parasite, which can cause meningitis in humans. Numerous areas in Florida are infested with giant African snails, which pose a great threat to native wildlife and the human population. Number 21. Crown of thorns, starfish on the Great Barrier Reef. The crown of thorns starfish is one of the most severe ongoing problems in the Great Barrier Reef. Even though it's a significant native predator, the species can become highly invasive during the outbreaks. As their populations explode, they cause severe damage to the corals because each starfish can consume more than 10 square meters of coral annually.
Underwater paradise is being bombarded by a growing epidemic of crown of thorns starfish, the 4th recorded since the 1960s.
The Great Barrier Reef has experienced 4 major outbreaks since the 1960s, which have significantly affected coral life. Overall, these starfish have their entire bodies covered in venomous, thorn-like spines, similar to the biblical crown of thorns that Jesus wore. They normally range in size from approximately 25 to 35 centimeters and have up to 21 arms. They're excellent predators, which become extremely dangerous for aquatic life when they become invasive. Number 22. Himalayan blackberry in the Pacific Northwest. In hopes of getting tasty berries to eat every year, the idea of introducing Himalayan blackberry to the Pacific Northwest turned out to be regrettable. The plant became an invasive species since its introduction in the 1800s. It was initially brought in thanks to its delicious flavor, but it soon started to spread across the region, severely dominating the local ecosystem. Like every other invasive plant, this one also takes everything to itself. From sunlight to water, it consumes everything, causing the death of other native plants. In addition, this berry plant is known to trap small animals, which is a serious concern considering how widespread it is. While the berries are tasty, the ecological effects they have brought have made them quite a hard pill to swallow. Number 23. Spotted lanternfly in eastern USA. The spotted lanternfly, a native to Eastern Asia, was first spotted in the United States in 2014 in Pennsylvania. Since then, the locals have noticed a rapid increase in their numbers, leading to the population spreading across several states. of which 15 are confirmed. These pests feed on the sap of various plants, but thanks to their massive population, their eating habits have threatened agriculture and ecosystems. Spotted lanternflies lay egg masses containing 30 to 50 eggs that easily go unnoticed, which is why their numbers have grown so much. Number 24, Mina birds on Pacific Island. The Mina birds, specifically the common Mina and jungle Mina, are yet another invasive species in many Pacific Islands. They were mainly introduced for pest control, but soon after their arrival, they became problematic. These birds are known for their highly adaptable nature, and mainly because this fact was neglected, they have rapidly spread their population across the Pacific Island. Mina are extremely aggressive birds, which is why so many native birds often lose to them when competing for food. To make matters worse, Mina even go as far as directly attacking the native bird, especially during the nesting season. Well, maybe this is the fee for controlling the pests in the area. Number 25, feral pigs worldwide. Feral pigs, commonly known as wild boars or feral swine, are a significant invasive species that exists worldwide, mainly in North America, Australia, and numerous parts of Europe. One of the main reasons they were introduced to different parts of the world is related to food. However, over the centuries, their population has kept on increasing, and today, in the United States alone, their numbers are estimated to exceed 6 million. Wild boars are great for hunting sports, but it's worth mentioning that they're also extremely aggressive. So if you encounter one of these, it's better not to mess with it because this guy is going to send you to the hospital. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the bell icon for more exciting content. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.